You're listening to the Ballet Piano Podcast, lifting the lid on dance accompaniment.
Hello, podcast fans, and welcome back to a new series of the Ballet Piano Podcast.
Woohoo!
We are here, and this season is going to be called Hot Topics. Last season, in season 1, we focused on the ballet class and we talked through in immense detail from start to finish, didn't we? Whereas now we're going to be picking up on some things that we discussed then. So it's things like, how do you choose your repertoire? What happens when you have a misunderstanding in the studio? What's it like playing for point and wearing point shoes and things like that? So today we are flying without #David Yao of Instagram. It feels a bit lonely, doesn't it?
I
We
know.
miss him.
It's like we've been.
He's on annual leave, isn't he, at the moment? It's summer 2020. And depending on when you're listening to this, I hope your restrictions and coronavirus, etc., are all well. So David's managed to escape up north back to his hometown of just outside Liverpool in the UK to see his family. So we thought we'd have some fun without him. So we're going to discuss music today. But before we get into that, to my right is my lovely wife, Miss Akiko Hobson.
Hello.
Hello. And opposite me, grooving away, is the wonderful Matt Gregory.
Hello, listeners.
Hello. So we're here. We are going to talk about how we choose our class repertoire, which it's a big one, isn't it, really? Because it sums you up as a ballet pianist, I think.
Yeah.
What you play.
What you play says a lot about you, doesn't it?
And obviously, we've got to do how you play it as well, but we'll get to that in another episode. But what you play, because you quite often, I know you're an exception to this, Matt, but we're thrown into a studio, play a ballet class. What do you do? How did you start, Akiko?
Oh, when I first time started playing for the ballet classes.
Yeah, what did you do? How did you play? Well, sorry, what did you play?
I just played a tune that I already knew to begin with to see if that's okay. And then more you start playing for the classes, you started to realize that you need more tunes. So
Yeah.
I just pretend to be, a young student apprentice, and then just approached quite a few ballet pianists who were around me and just said, can I just sit in your class and observe? Because I would like to gain more experience and I would like to know how you play. And I just sit innocently. But what I was doing was writing down the repertoire all the ballet pianists are playing.
Mhm.
And
Very
then
good idea.
go
Yeah.
home, research, I already know or something. I just make a list. And then next ballet class, I try the same tune. That's how I gained more and more rep.
You said in a previous episode for On the Job, you were copying Moon River, and you found tunes that were like Moon
Yeah.
River.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anything like Moon River like music is gonna go for Ron Jones. So it's easy to research.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
have that sort of basic understanding.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And I guess me having a perfect pitch actually had, advantage that, I just pick up quite quickly with like new tunes and things like this. So that was lucky of me.
And both of you came to this with like really accomplished sort of piano technique. So then for both of you, it was learning to play for class as a niche.
Yes.
You weren't learning to play the piano.
No.
No.
Whereas when I started, I was sort of brushing up on piano technique as well.
That's a lot to deal with.
Yeah,
So
like-
what
And
you
very
were-
tiring as well.
Yeah, when I started playing for class, I didn't play for ballet first. I played loads of tap classes for about a
Right.
year at Doreen Bird's. And because tap is lots of swingy floors, jazz standards,
Yeah.
swingy twos and all sorts of things, sometimes in 3. And then when they asked me we're going to need people to play for ballet, you
you're
start
like, okay,
bead sweating.
this
It's
is
like,
getting
what
real.
am I going to do?
Shizzle's getting real now.
Yeah, never done this before. And then, you start to feel a bit panicked.
See, because I came at it differently from that. Again, so I was working at Northern School of Contemporary Dance, wasn't it, before I started playing for ballet and became a ballet pianist. So all of my stuff for contemporary was used to on weird counts and weird phrases, phrases of 7, phrases of 13,
Yeah.
and things like that, which was not a problem and not an issue.
But did
'Cause-
you play piano or did you play drums and things?
Mostly piano back then. I used to do a bit of percussion, but mostly it was all on piano.
Okay.
And then going into ballet, and not really knowing what the difference was. You know, I knew it was a different genre, a different style, but I didn't understand how different it was going to be. So then realizing that I couldn't do all the free, fun improvisations, like a la Jamie Cullum of the early 2000s, like, you know, taking bits off the piano and kicking the strings and smacking the side of it, you know, encouraging the teacher to groove along, you know, being a drum machine on top of an upright piano while I was trying to pluck strings and things was what I used to do. And then going into the ballet, it was very different. You know, it almost felt, I don't know, boring for me at the start because it was all very refined and things like that. It was only when I learned how much fun you can have within these sets of rules that you've got to work within that I was like, okay, this is actually, I'm finding this a lot more fun. Partly because you can't play Blame Canada from the South Park movie for a contemporary dance class because that's just silly, or, you know, or even Les Mis and things like that. Nobody wants that in a contemporary class, do they?
It doesn't really fit, does it?
No, you know, for your Graham or your Cunningham or your Malone technique, it's not right.
Yeah.
Whereas in ballet, you know, pretty much anything
goes.
and everything can go, can't it?
Matt, so you already knew what to play, like what tune to play. You were more worried about the pianist.
It's so funny, could be coming from a dance background and obviously knowing the steps inside out and the vocabulary, the language of ballet, that was a given. And it's one thing doing a ballet class and hearing the pianist and think, oh God, that's amazing what they're playing. And then to sort of, you know, a year down the line having to do that, it's very different. I started I found some, I think it was some ISTD ballet syllabus. Syllabi. And so I was just sort of going through that and sort of learning the pliés, sort of learning the tendu exercises and sort of thinking, okay, but then that fits for that ISTD exercise. It's not necessarily going to fit for a free class.
Yeah.
And so I remember the first class, it was really bad because I didn't have any stride in the left hand. I didn't, you know, my left hand was so weak. I didn't have any dexterity for, you know, advanced melody in the right hand. So it was really, really bad. And I just sort of went in with these few tunes, this bits of sheet music that I'd managed to get together. Someone said to me, grab a fake book, which, you know, was about, you know, a couple of inches thick and just full of classical tunes, which is melody and the chords above the music. So I grabbed one of those and I just went through it. Oh, that might work. Dog-earing the pages, circling, writing on them so I could, you know, quick reference just to flip back and forth. This was back in 2007, 2008.
Another lifetime ago now.
Yeah. When I think about what it was like when I first started playing, you just feel really inadequate.
Yeah.
Until you've built your repertoire and built your stamina for playing for a full class.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time you're either looking at your hands or looking at the music in the early days, aren't you?
I was just trying to understand the word they are talking because I had zero information about this ballet word and steps, and it's all French and I never learned French, so I couldn't even guess what they are.
That must be so difficult.
It was, like I was just constantly trying to write down, but I don't even know how to spell. So I actually started my very, very first work I got was a RAD syllabus exam, like local ballet school. And I did like 3 times a week for a year or 2. And that actually taught me a basic steps like tendu, rondejong. And I started to understand, started to connect with the music. So it was a very, very good start for me to understand the word.
I know I still struggle with the word sometimes. I've fessed up to this in previous episodes. I remember when I first started up at Northern Ballet. So I didn't do any of the local ballet school stuff or the exams or even schoolwork. I pretty much went straight in to doing company stuff.
How did you do that?
I blagged it. I don't know. But what I got out of it in every rehearsal was we had a brilliant assistant stage manager called Chun, who used to be a dancer at EMB at one point in his life. So he was a former dancer and he had the best markings for a score. So after every rehearsal, especially if it was a new choreography, I always go and sort of like half inches score and say, right, and I need to mark this down. Because, you know, just shout, okay, from the third rondejong or from this step or that. So I don't even know what that looks like. So I just had everything written in the scores.
Oh, that's lucky.
Yeah.
I was really lucky. I was very gifted to be able to work with Chug because he was great. He got me out of it so many times. Then you'd be in a rehearsal on your own. You'd be like, oh my God, I hope they don't ask me something I don't know the answer. You just sort of like, and quite often I'd look over and I'm really sorry, I don't quite have that marking in, but if we just go back just a few bars and we pick it up from this particular point, this choreographic point at the start of the phrase, it might be easier musically. And it was just a blag just to get me out of a hole that I happened to be in at the time. I was just thinking, going back to what you were saying about at the start, I was given a couple of RAD books from exams and a couple of CDs. So I found for me the CDs worked better because I didn't know what the exercise was looking at it. And of course, it's very specific in tempo. So I had, I think, a local ballet person who was a friend of a friend of a friend gave me a few of her CDs. So I was listening to them. I was looking for what was the similarities and the differences between these three different pianist pliés and tondus and things like that. So I worked it out musically. So for me, like, a tondu, first, slow tondu would always be, bit of a tango maybe, or a slow four. It could be swung or it could be straight. So before I even learned the order of class, I knew what it was musically in order before like knowing what the choreographic intentions were behind it.
Yeah, in my early days as well, I'd have that classical fake book. I went everywhere with it.
Yeah.
And then I'd have like just a folder of sheet music that I'd printed and photocopied that I was trying to get into class.
Yeah.
But then on a separate piece of plain paper, I'd write my slow threes.
Yeah.
Marches, okay, and then the twos and all the rest of it into the sort of things that you might get asked for in a ballet class as a quick reference. And then the more you play them, the less you need the music.
Yeah.
Because it's in the muscle memory, it's in the fingers, it's in your head.
I used to have loads of books, manuscript books. So, in the days before Sibelius, you used to get plain manuscript books from the shops. And I used to go and I'd write out my ballet arrangements, just top line and chords. I didn't bother, I didn't do a full piano score, but just as a reminder for where like cuts were going to be to make it square and things like that, which we'll get onto, in probably the next episode. But it was just a way of helping me because I've not got a great memory until it goes into muscle memory and things like that. My memory's rubbish. So that was a big help. I must have spent ages sitting there. And I'd go home or I'd hear stuff on the radio. I think I'm going to try that in class. So I'd go home and I'd work out a ballet arrangement of it, write it all out. And then you go into class and then your heart sinks because it wouldn't work or the team didn't like it or nobody thought it was
good. We'd like to say a big thank you to our newest patrons, Ollie Pike, Chris Davis, Juan Mata, and Elizabeth Weir. Thank you so much for your continued support. And if you want to become a patron, visit patreon.com/Ballet Piano Podcast. So, how do we choose the tunes we're going to play? How do we even decide that that's going to work for that exercise or that fits lovely for that?
I think at the start, it's what the music that you like, isn't it? You don't know if it's going to fit, especially if you're so new to ballet, like we were at one point. You don't know if it's going to fit. You know it's a nice tune, or possibly that you've heard another pianist playing it in a different, in a different company or in a different dance studio. So you know it works for something. You've got to find out how you play it for you.
Yeah.
And then I think if you play with passion and play by yourself and play stuff that you like, you're already going to be heaps ahead of some other people who are trying to copy or think, okay, I have to play this style of music in this particular way for ballet, because we're all, different. We all have very different strengths and weaknesses as pianists, and this, we all live in London. There's hundreds of ballet pianists here, isn't there? And I think the reason why work gets offered around so much as well is because people like to have different people playing for them as well. It's great to have the same person, but because we all play different music, we all play it in a different way.
Yeah. What was the tune that Matt recorded and we were listening? And then I said I played completely differently.
Oh.
Well, we both play Schindler's List.
Yeah.
But we probably play that differently as well.
What was it?
It was one
from
the CD.
Oh,
yes, listeners, our up-and-coming CD, which is going to be released in a couple of weeks, so keep a check on your email for updates on that.
Yay.
Danny Boy.
Danny Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
How you play and how I play is very different.
Well, there's a story there. The Danny Boy that I've played on the CD recently is the Danny Boy. But up until a couple of months ago, the Danny Boy that I was playing was the Danny Boy from the fake book that I got back in 2007.
Right.
So with the inaccuracies of the harmony and all the rest of it, and making it work myself and adding my own harmony and all the rest of it, But yeah, the one that I'm putting on the CD is the correct harmony.
I like that arrangement.
And I do. I love it.
Lush.
It's so
I like
pretty.
it anyway. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
It's very pretty.
It sounds expensive, that one, because it is expensive. It's luscious.
Yeah.
No, but choosing repertoire, you've got to get on the radio, haven't you? Listening
Radio's
to
a
the
good point,
classic
yeah.
FM.
What about requests from dancers and teachers as well?
I love that.
It's like, sometimes when I've worked at the school in the Western Hemisphere, I would email whoever was working in the office opposite the studio and say, go on, what do you want to hear today? Do you want Disney? Do you want musical theatre? Do you want classical? What do you want? And you've done this, Akiko, like to one of our old directors. She loved, is it Jupiter?
Oh yeah,
And
she
so
liked
whenever
my
you saw her
Jupiter.
walking past, you'd play that. And
Yeah.
we'd play, you know, she was very patriotic. So we would play typical English tunes.
Yeah.
to make her smile.
Yeah.
And, you know, a previous dance director who was Spanish, who absolutely, I mean, he didn't adore me as a person, but when I played, you know, Viva España, we are off to sunny Spain for his frappe exercises, which thankfully was one of the exercises that was square. It was brilliant. You know, he was dancing around our studio in absolute heaven. It was like, it's only a, you know, it's, a little, it's funny.
I used to go to a school in London. And I used to go there on a Friday every week, and they'd say, "Oh, Matt, can we have just Disney tunes this week?" Or Matt, can we just have tunes from the 80s? Or, you know, just a class of classical music.
Yeah.
And then it really makes you think as you're going through the bar. I mean, it's good. It's good practice. It's good for racking the brain of the tunes.
Yeah.
Do you try and be funny with your repertoire as well? I used to have a Canadian boss for a bit up in Liverpool. And if you're listening, Sarah, hello. And I always played Blame Canada for her because she was Canadian. And I thought it was really funny.
I mean, we play a national anthem, don't
National
we?
anthems for students are always quite good
Yeah,
fun.
it's quite a good one.
Especially when they
Yes.
don't know their national anthems, like a lot of the Spanish students don't, or
Yeah.
didn't seem to.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, no, the other one is the Italian national anthem is a bit confusing because on the paper in the music, it's written upbeat.
It starts at the upbeat and it goes 1, 2, 3, dun,
But
dun,
people,
dun,
yeah.
dun.
People remember us on the beat. So if
You-
you start to play upbeat, that will confuse people, doesn't it?
So do you have to arrange it?
Yeah,
To
so
be on
just
the beat,
move it a beat
Which
backwards.
is something else we'll talk about.
We'll get onto that one
in
next
another
time, won't we?
episode,
Rearranging our repertoire.
If dancers are not getting the exercise, you might play If I Only Had a Brain.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the teacher quite likes that because they like that you're making a point.
At the end of a balance, you know, the final countdown or something like
You
that.
do lots of
I
things
like
like
that
this,
one, yeah.
don't you?
Living on a prayer, living for the weekend on a Friday afternoon.
We will survive.
I will survive. Yeah.
I will
yes.
survive.
If you're working at a company that's meant to have moved from the west to the east of the capital city, but it hasn't yet moved, you can quite often play Pet Shop Boys Go West because that's good fun.
You can really sort of, you know, make a point with the music, can't you?
And you can make or break a class with how you play it and what you play, can't you?
Yeah.
Like, don't go, you know, if it's Christmas time and the companies, as 95% of companies are doing Nutcracker, do not go in there and play the march for a Grand Batman
Oh,
or
no.
Waltz of the Flowers or any of the waltzes for an Allegro because you'll just get crucified.
Yeah, you've got to know your audience.
Know your
haven't you?
audience and read the room as well.
Yeah. But it's always nice to like, you know, go out for a drink with the teachers and then just kind of like, you know, personally dig into what their favorite kind of music. And then you
Yeah.
can, you know, where you can look for the new tunes.
Yeah, there's a teacher that I work with, and he hasn't told me directly, but I know through other people, you don't play Carmen for him. You don't play any Romeo and Juliet. You don't really play the classics because he's done it his whole career.
Oh,
So
But then some people do like that, don't they? Which is where you can't go one way or another with that because you could have somebody who's been, you know, been a ballet master for 30 years, who was a principal artist before that, and they will love it when you get out the Raymondas or the Giselles. It's just really, you want to hear this again?
and there's a piece of music that I play, and the rhythm is really, it's the Radetzky March, and it's really quite specific. And I just think there are some classical tunes that fit for ballet better than any popular music.
Yeah.
It's so specific, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like little entrechant or whatever, and sometimes the teacher sings it, and only that tune will work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's something to be said about, you know, classical music for ballet class.
And having a broad range of repertoire from different genres as well, isn't it? That's because you can cater for any sort of any audience then, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to just being stuck on the classical side, or the musical side or the pop side, or just being an improviser as well.
Yeah.
Do you find that you sort of listen with ballet class in mind? The films, TV,
Yes.
the radio. I'm always thinking, oh, that could work for
Everything
that.
now, yeah. And I'm counting through the phrases as well to see if you've got to do any sort of butchering with it to make it fit for ballet.
We sometimes talk, don't we? Like when we are out in the town or when we are on the car listening to radio and like, oh, this might work for Dondu.
Yeah, or you say, oh, I play this. And I was like, oh, I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
And vice versa. But I remember going back to the early days, hearing pianists next door. I think it was my first couple of days as a ballet pianist and hearing a pianist in the studio next door playing Elvis Costello on a 3.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I've played that before.
And love it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that was sort of like thinking, okay, right, why does that work on a 3 as well as a 4? What's he just standing outside for 5 minutes listening to how it was being played texturally and everything and going,
yes.
Okay, right, I understand that. There was a semitone key change from D flat to D at the end. And it was just pretty. I remember that being a light bulb moment for me going, okay, right, anything can work for this. It's how you play it.
And you do borrow from other pianists.
Yeah,
you hear someone through the
definitely.
studio or something online, or you just a tune that you've never heard of. You do borrow. That's how you build your repertoire,
Definitely.
don't you? But then you might play it for a different exercise that they have.
I suppose if
things
you're
like
starting
that.
off now or you're trying to expand your repertoire now, there's so many sources that you can go to because everybody sells CDs online, don't they? Like such as the Ballet Piano Podcast Ballet Class Volume 1, which will be out within a few weeks. So keep checking your emails for updates on that.
Mother plugger.
Does that mean that everybody all over the world are going to play our tunes now?
Well, people might, but they might hear it and do different arrangements of it. But there's so many other people out there as well who have CDs and have released stuff, and most of it's going to be on Apple Music or Spotify. So you can go and listen to how people play repertoire and how people arrange stuff. So if you're just starting off, I think that's something that we didn't have as easy access to 15, 20 years ago, did we? So that's going to be a great way of hearing 10 different pianists play 10 different pliés.
I think 15 years ago, it was only your CDs on the market, wasn't it?
I wasn't quite there
The first
15 years
volume.
ago. When was the first one? I think it's
12 years ago?
13 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
But I remember like borrowing few ballet CDs from teachers and just copy them and then just listen so you get like understanding of it.
And they've got these World Ballet Class Days now and everything on YouTube, haven't you? Which is great if you're going to be starting off because you can go and look at how teachers set things and you can go back and really analyse why the pianist plays what they play.
Yeah.
And all that wealth of information, again, that wasn't around when we were all starting out.
Talking about sources of music as well. I mean, I got Disney Plus recently.
Oh, did you?
It's the new thing. And, it's a chance to relive my childhood. And all those old Disney films, the music is beautiful.
Nice. Yeah.
There's loads of gorgeous quick 6/8s, lovely marches.
Yeah.
And it's all obviously music for cartoon, but the tunes are so good.
And you can play them in different styles, can't you? As well?
Absolutely. And I listen and watch now differently from when I did as a child.
Yeah.
You watch the film differently, don't you? But as a ballet pianist as well, you're always listening to the music.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, even for something like Frozen 2, which is really new, the score is much more cinematic.
Yes.
Whereas the old Disney films, I was watching Robin Hood last night, loads of quirky little marches and lovely bits of tunes.
Yeah.
And actually, the music for Robin Hood, the old cartoon, was written by about 5 different people.
Okay.
Oh.
They all contributed
know
different
that.
tunes to it. Yeah, so... It's just terribly charming.
Yeah.
All those old melodies.
Well, charming though. If you want to fill a room with stuff and you want to get everybody on your side, you can go musical theatre, can't you?
Yeah.
And you're going to get 95% of people on your side just by playing well-known musical theatre hits.
It's things they all know, and they know them. They know the words, they know the lyrics, and in their head they're probably singing along.
Yeah,
and it sort of makes them probably dance a bit better when it's a tune that you know.
Yeah, some of the old stuff was like the Rodgers and Hammerstein and your Fiddlers on the Roof and things like that. Real old-fashioned, good quality
good
musicals.
Melodies. Yeah.
What I'm missing, from you guys play and I can't play is the TV tune, all the English TV tunes that you guys know, and I have no idea because I wasn't here, and I wish I knew some tunes.
Well, you are, Chris. You're the king of theme tunes.
Yeah, but I'm getting old-fashioned now because I don't know a lot of the new TV theme tunes. So I've got a specific minimum age range for people finding me funny. I like it at the start of a new year or something like that. You know, we've had a new intake of dancers and we've got Japanese dancers coming. If I play Japanese TV themes, I only know 2 or 3 through Akiko.
I taught him.
They look at me as if say, "Why is this pasty white boy from Manchester playing a Japanese cookery TV theme tune or a cartoon?" And it's brilliant because I don't even let on, you know, just as if it's completely known. The teachers don't know what it is. They just think it's a nice little ditty, and the Japanese kids look over. It's so confused. It's brilliant. Before they know that we're married.
Yeah.
That's always a highlight every September.
And is it going to be on your CD very soon?
It might be on the Ballet Piano Podcast Volume
Already?
2 Class CD. I'm not sure yet. It will be on the CD somewhere. Keep checking us out. So, podcast fans, that's it for another episode. I hope that you found it enjoyable and hopefully informative and that we've taught you something. Why not let us know how you started off choosing your repertoire, or if you're a new ballet pianist, let us know where you're sourcing things from. And if there's any help that we can offer to you, please do not hesitate to contact us either on our social medias, which you can find by searching for Ballet Piano Podcast, or via our website, which is balletpianopodcast.com. So don't forget to join us next time, where we will be discussing how we arrange our repertoire, how we add bars in, how we take bars out, and how we make everything fit for what can sometimes be quite a weird ballet phrasing. So for now, it's goodbye from me.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.